What if the secret weapon against COVID has been sitting in your medicine cabinet all along, disguised as a simple allergy spray? Here's a discovery that might change how we think about virus prevention. Researchers have found that a widely available nasal antihistamine could be our next line of defense against COVID infections. This isn't some experimental drug or costly treatment. It's azelastine, the same over-the-counter spray millions of people already use to combat seasonal sniffles. A groundbreaking clinical trial conducted by German researchers at Saarland University Hospital has revealed findings that could revolutionize our approach to COVID prevention. The study, involving 450 adults with an average age in their early 30s, divided participants into two distinct groups. The first group, consisting of 227 individuals, received instructions to administer one spray of azelastine into each nostril 3 times daily. Meanwhile, the remaining 223 participants followed an identical routine using a placebo spray containing no active ingredients. But here's where it gets fascinating and potentially controversial. Over the course of nearly 8 weeks, with participants taking COVID rapid tests twice weekly, the results were striking. Those using the azelastine spray experienced a mere 22% infection rate, dramatically lower than the 6.7% rate observed in the placebo group. That's roughly a 3-fold reduction in COVID risk. And this is the part most people miss. The benefits extended beyond just COVID. The azelastine group also showed reduced rates of other symptomatic respiratory infections across the board, according to the study published in JAMA Internal Medicine. So how does a simple allergy spray potentially block viruses? Let me break this down in terms anyone can understand. Scientists believe azelastine works through multiple mechanisms that create a hostile environment for viruses in your nasal passages. Think of your nasal mucosa, that moist membrane lining your nose, as the front door to your body that viruses must pass through to cause infection. The first theory suggests that azelastine acts like a molecular bouncer, binding directly to viruses in this nasal gateway and blocking a crucial enzyme they need to multiply and spread. It's essentially sabotaging the virus's ability to reproduce before it can establish a foothold in your system. The second possibility involves the ACE2 receptor, which you might remember as COVID's preferred entry point into human cells. Azelastine may interfere with this process, preventing the virus from successfully latching onto and penetrating our cellular defenses. Dr. Robert Balls, professor of internal medicine and pneumology at Saarland University and the study's senior author, expressed optimism about the practical applications. Our findings suggest azelastine could serve as a scalable, over-the-counter prophylactic against COVID, especially when community transmission is elevated or in high-risk settings such as crowded indoor events or traveling, he explained. But here's where it gets controversial and where expert opinions start to diverge significantly. Dr. Balls was careful to emphasize important limitations. The trial participants were predominantly young and relatively healthy individuals, raising questions about effectiveness in older adults or those with compromised immune systems. He stressed that azelastine should never be viewed as a replacement for vaccinations, and called for larger, more comprehensive studies before recommending it as a routine preventative measure for the general public. Dr. William Messer from Oregon Health Science University, who wasn't involved in the research, described the findings as reasonably convincing for risk reduction. However, he raised the practical concern that many might find surprising: compliance. The trial required participants to remember 3 daily nasal sprays, day after day, for weeks on end. The mask may be more awkward and annoying, but might be easier to comply with than remembering a thrice daily nasal spray day after day, Messer pointed out. This raises an intriguing question. Is convenience sometimes more important than potentially superior protection? Yet Messer didn't dismiss the approach entirely, adding, "I would not discourage someone interested in giving it a try." Dr. Peter Chin Hong from UCSF Health's Division of Infectious Diseases took a more cautious stance, particularly regarding vulnerable populations. He suggested that azelastine might find its niche among people who already use the spray for seasonal allergies, but felt the evidence insufficient for broader recommendations. While promising, I don't think it's prime time to recommend this to block transmission, he wrote. For those 65 and older, I would still continue to recommend vaccines as my #1 defense against COVID. But here's the bigger picture that has researchers truly excited. This study provides compelling evidence that the nasal mucosa could be a crucial target for future vaccine development against COVID and other respiratory viruses. Current COVID vaccines, while effective at preventing severe disease, don't excel at blocking infections entirely. The current COVID vaccines clearly do not do a great job of protecting against infections, Chin Hong acknowledged. We need more mucosal vaccines for respiratory viruses. There's one which is widely used for influenza, and there's been ongoing work in mucosal vaccines for coronaviruses, but we need to continue to advocate for federal prioritization and support of these initiatives. This raises fascinating questions about the future of pandemic preparedness. Are we approaching virus prevention from the wrong angle? Should we be focusing more on blocking viruses at their point of entry, rather than just preparing our immune systems to fight them after they've already invaded? The implications extend far beyond COVID. Previous research has shown that azelastine demonstrates antiviral properties against various respiratory infections, including influenza and RSV. This suggests we might be looking at a broad-spectrum preventative tool rather than a COVID-specific solution. However, significant questions remain unanswered. Will these results hold up in larger, more diverse populations? How effective would azelastine be in elderly individuals or those with compromised immune systems who need protection most? And perhaps most importantly, how do we balance the promise of accessible prevention tools with the need for rigorous scientific validation? What's your take on this? Would you be willing to commit to 3 daily nasal sprays if it meant significantly reducing your risk of respiratory infections? Or do you think we're overcomplicating prevention when proven measures like masks and vaccines already exist? More controversially, should readily available treatments like this undergo the same lengthy approval processes as new drugs, potentially delaying access to life-saving interventions? Share your thoughts. This debate is far from settled.